Welcome back to another Python for Beginners YouTube tutorial. I'm Harry Norton, this is Harry Does Data, and I make data science videos here on YouTube. Today, we're going to be taking a look at if, elif, and else statements. We touched upon these in the logical conditions tutorial, but here we'll go into a bit more detail on how they actually work. We often need to run different code based on whether a certain condition is true or not. An if statement allows us to do exactly that, using the logical comparisons that we looked at in the last tutorial. The format of an if statement looks a bit like this. We start the if code block with an if statement, and then we have a condition. And if that condition evaluates to true, then we run the code that is indented after the if statement. If that code evaluates to false, then we skip the code that's indented and move on to the rest of the program. The indentation here is very important, as Python uses it to understand what code is within the if statement and what is not. So the indentation consists of 4 spaces, but we can just use the tab button to achieve this in IDLE. I'll now take you through how a specific if statement actually works. So in the UK, you have to be 18 or over to buy alcohol. Let's make a little program that takes someone's age and returns to the screen whether they are or are not allowed to buy alcohol. So first let's define an age variable, which we can change. And then we have our if code block. So we start it with an if statement. Then we have our condition. So if age is greater than or equal to 18, then someone is allowed to buy alcohol. So within the code block, we will print and we'll say this person can buy alcohol. We'll then move on to the rest of the program. So we move out of the indentation and back to the furthest left-hand side of the screen. So just to illustrate how the code is actually running, we'll print something else to say this is the rest of the program. So now when we run this program, Python will set a variable called age equal to the value of 19. It will then take an if statement and evaluate is age greater than or equal to 18. 19 is greater than 18, so this will evaluate to true. And anything that evaluates to true within the if statement means that the code indented will be run. So this will then print this person can buy alcohol to the screen, and then the Python interpreter will move on to the rest of the program and print this is the rest of the program. So let's see that in action by clicking F5 to run as usual. And I'll just rearrange my windows here. So now we can see it printed this person can buy alcohol, and this is the rest of the program. Now, what happens if we change age and run the program again? So we'll change age to 16 and run again. And now you'll see that Python only prints this is the rest of the program. And what's happened is age has been assigned to 16. The if statement has evaluated is age greater than or equal to 18. And obviously that is not true. So this evaluates to false, meaning that anything in the code block afterwards is not run. And the Python interpreter simply moves on to the rest of the program. So we result in just printing this is the rest of the program. And it's important to remember that we can have anything here that evaluates to true or false. So we could even just have true written here, and if we run that, then the code block should run. So if true, then this should run, as it does, and if false, then it would skip it. And that's just to illustrate how the if statement is actually running. It looks at our condition, and whatever our condition evaluates to is what it then uses to decide what to do. So let's just go back to our actual condition. Now, this is very simple, but most of the time you'll want to take one action if the code evaluates to true, and a different action if the code evaluates to false. And this is where an if-else statement comes in. So, the generic code for an if-else statement looks something like this. We have our original if statement that runs exactly the same, so if condition evaluates to true, run this code. If that has evaluated to true, and this code is run, then the else statement will be skipped and will return to the rest of the program. However, in this case, if the statement is false, then we skip this code and we go on to the else statement. And the else statement doesn't need a condition, it simply runs if it is reached. And then, as usual, we would move on to the rest of the program. So let's go back to our original example and add in the else statement to that. So we want to add another message. If the person is not 18 or over, we want to print this person cannot buy alcohol. So we'll use an else statement to do that. So we return back to the furthest left-hand side because we don't want to be within this code indentation. And we start our else statement by simply typing else and then using the colon. IDLE will automatically give us our indentation. And then we'll have another print statement, print this person is not old enough to buy alcohol. Oh, and I've just seen that I made a bit of a spelling mistake up here. So we'll make alcohol correct and then end our brackets. And that is our else statement. So now when this runs, as usual, age will be assigned to 19. We'll check if age is greater than or equal to 18, then we'll run this if statement block and we'll skip the else block and move on to the print. This is the rest of the program. So that will look just the same as before. When we run it, this person can buy alcohol. This is the rest of the program. However, where this changes, if we now make this less than 18, so we'll say 17, and we run the program, then you'll see that it says this person is not old enough to buy alcohol. Again, another little typo. Let's get rid of that T. And then it prints this is the rest of the program. So what's happened is age has been assigned to 17. We then check, is age greater than or equal to 18? 17 is not greater than or equal to 18, so this evaluates to false, meaning this code block is skipped, and we move on to the else statement. The else statement doesn't need a condition, it just runs if it is reached, so we print this person is not old enough to buy alcohol, and then we move on to this is the rest of the program. Now there is one more aspect to an if chain that allows us to test multiple conditions, and this is an Elif statement. So we can build an if, Elif, else chain, where we test multiple conditions in turn, and only one of the codes in the block will be run. So this is the general structure for an if, Elif, else chain. Just as before, first of all, we'll test the first condition. If it evaluates to true, we'll run the code, and if it evaluates to false, we'll move on to the next statement. The next statement is an Elif statement, which is just a contraction of else if. And so this one again requires a condition, and just as the if statement, if the condition evaluates to true, then we run the code within, and if not, we move on. And then we reach the else statement, where the code will be run if the else statement is reached. And then just as before, we run the rest of the program. Now, to continue with our purchasing alcohol in the UK example, we need another little bit of knowledge. So in a pub in the UK, you can purchase alcohol if you're over 18. However, if you're 16 or 17, you can consume alcohol with a meal if it is bought for you by an accompanying adult. So let's have a program that evaluates if you are less than 16 years old, it will say you cannot consume or buy alcohol. If you're between 16 and 18, it will tell you that you cannot buy alcohol, but you can consume alcohol if it's bought for you by an accompanying adult. And then finally, we'll have a statement that says if you are 18 or over, then you can purchase alcohol. So we can use this setup to do this. So let's just go, firstly, we'll reassign our age variable to be equal to 15. And then we'll have our first statement. And this is the if statement, and we'll start with if age is less than 16. Then we'll print a statement saying that this person cannot buy or consume alcohol. Now, next comes our else statement. So we've checked if the person is less than 16. Now we need to see if they fall within the 16 to 18 age group or they are over 18. So our Elif statement will say, is age greater than or equal to 16? And is age less than 18? So here we're using our logical operators that we also looked at in the last tutorial to test multiple conditions. And the AND operator means that this overall statement will only be true if both logical parts of it are true. So the person must be greater than or equal to 16 and be less than 18. So they must be basically 16 or 17. And I'm just going to copy and paste this print statement in because it's a bit of a long one. But after this, we will print, if this person is 16 or 17, this person can consume alcohol with a meal if it is purchased by an accompanying adult. That's a bit of a mouthful, but here we are. So finally, we need to determine what our else statement is. So we've checked, is the person less than 16? We've also checked, is the person 16 or 17? So now we just need a statement for what if the person is over 18. For this, we could use an else statement because we've already checked all other conditions. So we know that if we get to this else statement, then the person must be 18 or over. So here, we'll just print, this person can buy alcohol. And then finally, we'll have the same statement as last time. Outside of the if, elif, else chain, we'll print this is the rest of the program. So now let's just see what happens when we match each of the conditions. So first, age is equal to 15, and let's see what happens. So first of all, we print this person cannot buy or consume alcohol. and then we print this is the rest of the program. Now, if this person is 16 or 17, so let's go with 17, and we run, then you'll see that it prints this person can consume alcohol with a meal if it is purchased by an accompanying adult, and then it prints this is the rest of the program. So, the first condition evaluates to false, meaning we skip the if code. We then check the next condition in the Elif code. Age is greater than or equal to 16, and it is less than 18, therefore this evaluates to true, and we print this code in the block here. We skip the else statement and move on to this is the rest of the program. Now finally, if we are 18 or over, so let's go with 19, and we run the program, then we simply get the this person can buy alcohol, and this is the rest of the program. So this evaluates to false, meaning we skip over it. The Elif statement also evaluates to false because we are 18 or over, so we skip this part and we move on to the else statement. Now this is run because it's been reached, so this person can buy alcohol is printed, and then we move on to the rest of the program. Now that's nearly it for this tutorial, but it's just worth noting that you can have as many Elif statements in a chain as are required to test all the conditions that you need to. It's also not always necessary to have an else statement at the end of the chain, and it can actually sometimes be better coding practice not to. So let me just show you this example. If we convert this to an Elif statement instead of an else, then this may be seen as better coding practice. So we have to have a condition in here. We have to have age is greater than or equal to 18, and this will run exactly the same as the previous program, but it's seen slightly better practice because you can tell exactly what the reason for this code being run is. E.g., this part of the code is only run if age is greater than or equal to 18. So that is it for if, elif and else statements. I hope you found this video tutorial useful. If you have, please give it a like and subscribe to Harry Does Data so that you don't miss out on more great data science content.